Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Time that we move on to our final topic of the night, and that's James Harden. I've been waiting to talk about this for a couple of weeks now since he requested another trade out of Philadelphia. And so, as I just mentioned, James Harden, third trade in 4 years. Now he's trying to move off from the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that he wanted to go to initially, and move into a different direction. And a lot of rumors are coming out saying that he's eyeing the Los Angeles Clippers. But with that being said, is it finally time to admit that James Harden is the walking problem?
No, because like how like it's I don't get it. Like the guy's coming into the Sixers, he's like, hey, I want a long-term deal. Daryl Morey is like, no, I cannot give you a long-term deal. Reports have come out from, I believe, Shams and other sources that are saying basically that the relationship is fractured at this point. Daryl Morey and James Harden. And I don't think the issue is like they're really. The issue is James Harden. He initially didn't want to leave, but if he's not going to get paid, he's not going to get a long-term deal. He might as well go out and get out of there. I think he's going to play on this 1 year. He goes to the Clippers and then attempt to get a long-term deal after that. But it's not like okay, James Harden came to offseason. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and request a trade. No, it's more like okay, I'm not getting paid. I'm going to get out of here. I'm gonna play for a year, and then go to whatever team that's gonna end up paying you the money that I'm requesting. James Harden took a pay cut last summer. He's not gonna obviously take a pay cut this time. He's looking for a long-term deal. So I don't think he has like James Harden has problem in Philadelphia. No, the guy just paid. Pretty simple.
James Harden's done. I'm sorry. Regardless of what team he goes to, I don't see him winning anything. I don't see him winning in finals.
Well, that has no relevance. He's trying to get paid.
Oh, you talking about him trying to get paid?
The whole point of him.
You hit mute.
The whole point of him requesting a trade out of Philadelphia is him trying to get paid because he's not the Philadelphia is going to give him a long-term deal.
This is his last big contract though.
Exactly.
It is his last big thing because if he does play out that 1 year in Philadelphia, whatever that 37 mil is, I don't see him getting a 4-year deal, 3-year deal after that. Yeah, for him, if it's the money angle, then hey, I respect it. If he wants to get paid, he gets paid. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Philadelphia talking about they want to keep him. He's over here with Daryl Morey and what's the other guy's name? That off-white party, whatever that was called.
Michael
Rubin, PJ Tucker's there, Embiid's there. They all look like they're enjoying their time. Tobias Harris is there. They're talking about they're bringing back the gang. So I don't know. See, if they do pay him and he stays in Philadelphia, I feel like still, they're not the favorites out in the East. But if it comes to the Clippers, if they do give him a contract, hey, you, Westbrook, Kawhi, PG, still not the Kings of LA. Still not the Kings of LA. So. To me, regardless of where he goes to or whatnot,
it's not even about the money for me, man. I think people are now starting to understand, this guy's his deck and what his hand that he's trying to play. This guy, his third trade in 4 years. Obviously he moved off from Houston. He requested 2 teams, I think 3 teams. He ended up going to one of those teams that he wanted to go to, which was the Brooklyn Nets. They threw a huge offer at the Rockets. Couple of years in Brooklyn, a year and a half, I would say, didn't end up panning out to how he wanted it to pan out to be. And then he ended up moving off to a team that he wanted to go to, a destination that he wanted to go to, in the Philadelphia 76ers. I understand he took a pay cut last year, and this might be all about money. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, what is James Harden's value today? What is James Harden going to provide for my franchise that'll help me win an NBA championship? If James Harden was worth the money that he's looking for, some team would have offered for him by now. There's 100% no doubt in my mind. There was smoke coming out of this regular season saying that the Houston Rockets were interested. Once Ime Udoka got signed as their head coach, everything quieted down. There was nothing coming out of the Houston Rockets organization that indicated that they wanted to sign this guy, James Harden, and bring him back there. There's nothing that came out of that. And once the Philadelphia Sixers realized that James Harden isn't really worth much on the market today, it's Daryl Morey is just playing his card, his hand, and he's understanding that James Harden is not worth the money he's asking, and we're not going to be that dumb franchise that pays him what he's looking for. So what he wants. So I understand why James Harden right now he's requesting a trade, but at the same time, it's kind of like he's more of a problem than some guy that's in comparison to somebody you could rely on for it to help your franchise win an NBA championship at this point. And so whether he ends up getting paid or ends up getting moved to the Los Angeles Clippers, I'm not too sure if James Harden, regardless, is going to end up with the huge pay that he's looking for. It might be something, less to what, obviously a little bit more, might be a little bit less than what he's making right now.
The issue is the length of the deal. The issue is the length of the deal.
There's some bums right now that are getting paid some good money. There's some bums right now.
The issue is the length. It's not about the money is in of itself in total. It's about the length of the deal. He wants a long-term deal. This guy realizes, okay, I'm 34 right now, 33, whatever. 4 years from now, I'm about to be 37, 38. Okay, this is gonna be my last serious contract. He's looking for a long-term deal. It isn't about if James Harden was looking for a 2-year deal, teams would offer him that, no question. But the Philadelphia 76ers would give him that. But he's looking for a 4-year deal. And that's exactly what the Philadelphia 76ers don't want to give him. So he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna ask out. That's my idea of if I'm not gonna get paid here, I'm gonna go to the Clippers. I'm gonna play on my last year of this. I'm gonna opt in and play my last year, and then I'm gonna look for a pay rise after that. That's what a long-term deal. That's essentially what James Harden is trying to do with the Philadelphia 76ers.
And what I'm trying to tell you and trying to get the message across is he's not going to end up getting that regardless of how his upcoming season goes. And so it doesn't make any sense if James Harden isn't worth that. If James Harden isn't worth that right now, I can't. There's nothing that's going to indicate or that tells me in a year from now he's going to be worth what he's looking for. 4-year contract, what X amount of money. That's just not. It's not understandable. It's not something I can wrap around my head. James Harden is not going to get the huge payday he's looking for. Whether it's not a money issue, whether it's the duration of time with the franchise, it's just not going to happen for James Harden at this stage of his career. I've been saying this for quite some time now. We're seeing this guy decline right in front of our eyes, and the player that he is today isn't the same player he was 5-7 years ago. So it's kind of like
Chris Paul got the same contract. Chris Paul got a huge contract 2021 with his Phoenix Suns. Why can't James Harden get paid?
44.
Chris Paul was one of the pieces that kind of helped the Phoenix Suns turn their franchise around completely. When they got Chris Paul, they just came off the NBA bubble where they went 8-0.
What's a huge difference between that Chris Paul and James Harden now? What's a huge difference between those two?
Chris Paul helped him get to the NBA Finals the year.
What's the difference between those two as a player? They're both playmakers. They can both score not the same level that they used to. They're both 20 and 10 players at that point. Chris Paul, if anything, he's a worse scorer than James Harden is now. So I just don't get it. James, he's looking for a contract. Chris Paul got paid the same, basically $44 million for 18 and 10. James Harden, who averaged 22 and 11, somehow isn't gonna get paid.
It's just
I don't get it.
A lot of franchises are probably going to use Chris Paul as an example as to why they shouldn't pay a guy like James Harden. But if anything, Chris Paul was more help to the Phoenix Suns than James Harden was to any of these franchises that he's been on since he's left Houston, I would say. So Brooklyn, obviously he got injured, so that doesn't count. But Philly, there's no excuse for Philly. Philly, he was just legit dog shit. He might have had a couple games.
The best player on the team didn't even show up.
James Harden himself, outside of those 2 games where he dropped,
he
40,
gave him 2 games, and this is a wash James Harden. This is a wash James Harden. This is when comparison.
What about when they needed him most? His
MVP didn't show up. The best center, the supposed best center in the league didn't show up.
And Joel Embiid.
It's a pecking order. It's a Joel Embiid and it's a James Harden. James Harden, yes. Did he not show up for those 4 games? Yeah, sure, of course not. And I think that's a part of the reason why he devalued him as a player now as it is. I really believe if it was James Harden if we were to value James Harden coming out of the regular season of last season, people would be more willing to give him this long-term contract. But he's thinking, okay, let me go to Clippers. Let me rise my value. Whether that is through a playoff performance, through winning a ring.